Hi, and welcome everybody to the Winner's Circle Sports Betting Channel. You're watching the Winner's Circle Sports Betting Podcast brought to you by gamblersworld.net, our sponsor site. And all three of us on this show are handicappers over at gamblersworld.net and proud to be. And we have 7 other great handicappers there as well. But without further ado, my name's Ross Benjamin. I'm your host. Like every Wednesday, and it is Wednesday, February the 21st, excuse me. I'm joined by Mr. Jesse Schule and Mr. Sean Higgs. And guys, 2-in-1 day, you picked me up yesterday as I had a loser on Baylor, plus the 4. They lost by 7, but both of you gentlemen cashed in, and that's good for the audience. My college basketball free picks now are 8-3 with my last 11 on this channel, but I'm not going to win every day. And these two gentlemen, they win consistently. There's no two ways about it. So between the three of us, folks, you need to subscribe to our YouTube channel. We'll put you in the winner's circle, with no pun intended, on a consistent basis. And you can do that by just subscribing. You'll see that black subscribe button right underneath you. Or if you're on your PC, hit that WC logo, and that will get you subscribed. It's absolutely free to do so. And we just suggest that you go into your YouTube settings and also click on that alert notification bell for the Winner's Circle Sports Betting Channel, and you'll be notified immediately upon any of our podcasts going up on this channel, which is currently 5 times a week, Monday through Friday. Don't forget our live show, Friday at 1 o'clock Eastern. Jesse, how are you, my man?
Well, Ross, I'm doing all right. I think last night on the show, when I gave out Creighton over the number 1 ranked team in the country, some of the viewers were questioning my sanity, but turns out we did hit that free pick on the show, and feels good. And yeah, things are going well as we approach the month of March.
Yeah, once you see UConn, a team like UConn, just dominate Marquette, and now they got to go on the road and play in a tough environment at Creighton, where on a nightly basis, they average over 17,000 fans per game. So it's not a small venue by any stretch. And they're a rabid fan base. So, Sean, you had a nice winner as well on Utah State. Needed a little bit of free throw percentage
never in doubt.
Down the stretch.
That's an easy win.
Went 4 for 4 in the last 26 seconds. Hey, that's all part of it. See, folks, and again, before Sean talks, part of what I look at too, if you're on a favorite, look at their free throw percentage, because in the way college basketball goes down in the last minute, these teams will extend games as long as they possibly can. So if you've got a favorite that hits at a high percentage at the free throw line, that certainly comes into play, right, Sean?
Yeah, I like to look at, especially in like close, smaller lines like that. I'll tend to look at the top, like the starting 5, see how they shoot. Hopefully, and again, these kids, they can't shoot free throws. Everybody wants to dunk, and so if I have a team that has like a couple 80-something% free throw shooters, or even a high 70s, I'll feel a lot better than looking at that 66, 63, 57, and like some guy 84 who's a 6-man or whatever. It's dumb, but whenever I lose, I have a game that's a close loser, whether it's a half point, 1 point, 2 point, 3 point. First thing I go to, free throws. Who cost me? And that's in the NBA as well. Like, I go right to the free throws. Like, how do we do that? 79% from 3 throws. If you can't hit, like, as a collective, as a team, if you're not hitting 90% from line, that's just come on, guys. It's a free throw. It's a free point. It's a free point.
90% as a team. Come on.
But I'm saying, really, Ross, it shouldn't not be that hard to go 17 and 19 from the free throw line. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't see how guys can miss free throws.
It sounds good in theory, Sean, but guys may go 17 for 19 in practice consistently, but then you're on the road with 17,000 people
I'm
yelling.
Sorry, I thought you were professional. I'm not talking. That's more for like the pros than the kids. I mean, the kids, I know you're gonna. But even
I got you. Well, you know what? That's the difference. I mean, in the college game, a good free throw percentage for a team is like 75 to 78% is great. That would be below average in the NBA. So, yeah, your point's well taken. Jesse, how you been doing of late? And what do you want to share with the audience? What's going on over at gamblersworld.net?
To be brutally honest, it's been pretty ho-hum the last few days, Ross. Since the Super Bowl, we have you got the NBA All-Star break. There just hasn't been a lot of games to bet on, and I've thrown out a few here and there, and with mixed results. So I can't say that the last 7 days has been good, but for 2024, it's been very good. Very happy about how the year is shaping up, and very excited about March. I will say Sean's analysis about free throw shooting, college basketball teams should be hitting 90%. I was aware of this, but I had to Google it just now to confirm. The best ever free throw shooter in NBA history hits 90%, and that's Steph Curry. And I think before that it was Mark Price, the guy that shoots underhand, Rick Barry maybe. But 90% would make you the best in the world ever. So I don't think we should be expecting the Atlantic 10 conference role players to be hitting 90% of their free throws.
Yeah, I think he was referring to the NBA, but still 90% as a team in the NBA is crazy too. I mean, again, you'll see the top players, though, guys that are in the game late in the NBA when they have a short lead and teams are that are behind are forced into trying to extend the game via sending them to the free throw line. You'll see a lot of guys in the high 80s and low 90s, well, high 80s anyway, in that situation. But yeah, free throw, you have to factor it in. That's what we talk about all the time. You know, you just can't marry yourself to one type of handicap. And if you like a short favorite in college basketball, even a favorite of 7 to 8 points, okay, if they're shooting anywhere from 75 to 78 from the free throw line, and they're in the top third, at least the top 25% of the country as a free throw shooting team, that bodes well for you when you're a favorite. You might not need it, but in case you do, that's something should be factored into your handicapping equation. And yesterday was a perfect example of that on Sean's Utah State pick, because they were only up one with 26 seconds to go, and they went 4 for 4 from the free throw line down the stretch in the last 26 seconds, and they held the other team scoreless. So good for us. We went 2-1. Jesse is just told you how he's been doing of late, and Sean, what about yourself?
Maybe the 90% was high. I'm just saying.
You think?
You see those numbers, I just shake my head. It's kind of like looking at a 3-point when a team goes like 4 of like 21. You're like, are you kidding me? I don't know. Anyway, of late, winning day yesterday, winning day on Monday. I'll take winning days one day at a time. College basketball, as Jesse said, NBA All-Star break, hockey. I've been looking. I haven't really found much to jump on, although I was kind of eyeing the Bruins under today. I thought about doing that game, but I did not pull the trigger. But college basketball, and hey, man, we got tournaments coming up short time away. I believe they start up on March 4th, if I remember correctly. So,
yeah, by the way, we're running a special offer right now over at gamblersworld.net. You can get the entirety of the rest of the college basketball season right through the NCAA tournament game, includes all postseason tournaments in the final couple weeks here of the regular season. You can get that for just $3.99 for any handicapper, folks. So great deal going on there. And again, if you go to gamblersworld.net, you won't only find us three, you will find 7 other great handicappers where we guarantee our selections. And what that simply means, folks, is if you do not win, you do not make a profit on any single game, multi-game daily package, or subscription plans of 30 days or fewer, we will credit your account back the exact amount of which you spent out of your pocket on that specific purchase. I went 2-0 with my college basketball totals yesterday. So I continue to roll with that category there. College basketball totals now 72-38 with my last 110, 13-6 with my last 19 at 72-38. It's good for 65%. It's not bad, folks. With that many picks over that period of time, it's not a fluke. College basketball overall, a modest 25-18 with my last 43, which is good for 58%. So keep an eye on my college basketball totals. Also, keep an eye on what Jesse and Sean are doing over at gamblersworld.net. Folks, these picks that we give you on the show are our free picks. 90% of the time, they're not going to be included on our premium card. I know a lot of you will try to shame us into giving premium picks. It's not going to work, folks. We've been doing this too long. And as you can see, 2-1 yesterday. I'm 8-3 with my last 11 free picks. It's not like we don't want to win for you. So in any event, let's get to our games that we're going to discuss today. And Jesse, you're going to be looking at the Colorado State at New Mexico game. And that game goes at 10 p.m. Eastern time. Colorado State coming off a big win. New Mexico coming off a loss at San Diego State. New Mexico -7 and 157. Boy, that seems like a heavy number. I know that the line has moved from 5 to a 7 in this game. Jesse, what's your take?
Yeah, it's another one of these situations where you have the unranked home favorite against a ranked team. Pardon me. A little bit under the weather, Ross. Yeah, and another unranked home favorite against a ranked team, much like the Utah State game last night. And much like the Utah State game, I don't think it's that relevant to focus on the rankings when both these teams have the exact same overall record of 20-6. Both teams are 8-5 in the Mountain West. To me, yeah, New Mexico looks like the play, but I guess everybody else is seeing what I'm seeing, and the public is betting this game like it's free money. And I don't want to lay 7. I liked this game when it opened at 5.5. And I'm going to reiterate how important it is as a professional handicapper or a recreational bettor, anybody who's going to put their hard-earned money on sporting events. You got to get in early on these bets. You got to look at the lines the night before. You can't roll out of bed at 10 in the morning, open up the odds screen and think you're going to get the best lines. At 7, it's a no play for me. I'm going to look at the first half. The first half line is sitting at 4. And I expect New Mexico to win the game. I expect them to get off to a good start. And I just don't want to. I don't want to be sitting there with a ticket with a bad line when I could have had a 5.5, end up missing by a half point on a missed free throw or something when I could just take them for the first half. And I expect them to be up by half a dozen at halftime at least.
All right, so Jesse likes New Mexico -4 in the first half as a first half bet, that is, over Colorado State. That makes a lot of sense from the standpoint that New Mexico coming off that loss at San Diego State, 81-70 on Saturday, and they'll look to come out strong and make a statement early on. Boy, I'm looking at their numbers after a loss this year: 1-0, 2-0, 3-0. 4-0, 5-0, 5-0 straight up, and 4-1 against the spread after a loss for New Mexico. However, keep in mind, folks, New Mexico's also lost twice at home, and they're going to be facing a very strong Colorado State team that's now 5-1 straight up in ATS in their last 6. Sean, I mean, yes, there's comparisons to the Utah State game yesterday, which you had in terms of unranked team being favored over a ranked team. This is even more apparent. I mean, even the opening number, an unranked team at -5.5 against a ranked team. And now it's moved to 7. I trust the odds makers a lot more than any of the pollsters. I've said that time and time again. And they set the opening line, and I just don't know. I mean, maybe the line move is where we fall short here if you're looking to take the home favorite. What's your take?
Well, I'm trying to pull up, I think the last time, well, one, I want to say, Ross, March 4th, I was right, 12 days away, Atlantic Sun Tournament starts up, by the way. So let's go Stetson. I was trying to pull up when New Mexico played San Diego State last week. I think the line opened up low and got bet up high as well, and that was a no kind of brainer there. I like New Mexico here minus. I got 5.5 last night. You know, I'm doing my games ahead of time. I'm not waking up and saying, "Oh, let's turn on ESPN see who these guys have." I look at it this spot. Yeah, the line's gone up, which is I think just people kind of betting onto this trend a little bit, which is more reason to get down ahead of time. Last time, San Diego State beat them. Now they're home where they lost their last game. So you have a combination of let's get that taste out of our mouth from a road loss, rebound from our last game at home, which was a loss, and then much again like yesterday, a team Jesse mentioned same records, but here we go. Look at a road record, another losing road record. You lose to teams like these top couple teams, them, Boise, Utah. They all kind of lose at each other's courts. It's just the way it is. And you have revenge because Colorado State got you last time you played. I'm going to take New Mexico here at the Pit. We talk about home courts. You talk about Creighton. This place gets pretty wild and riled up for their team. So, hey, a loss, a home loss, and a revenge loss all rolled into one. That's one big winner for me. Let's go home team. Double-digit winner today.
There you go. Sean likes New Mexico -7. Jesse likes New Mexico in the first half as our official pick, -4 as a first half bet over Colorado State. I just can't pull the trigger on these teams that are getting 80% of the money and 80% of the volume of bets. That does not mean it's automatically they're going to lose. The public is right on occasion. And like I alluded to before, I trust the odds makers much more than the pollsters. And they set this line at 5.5, which means if the game was at Colorado State would be a short favorite, maybe 1-2 points at the most. I will say that this is a contrast to style. New Mexico has played, 4-1-1, 4-1-1. They've played 8-1-1 to the over in their last 10. Colorado State's gone under the total in their last 5. The first time these teams met at Colorado State on January 2nd, the Rams came away with a 76-68 win, easily going under the total 158. And Colorado State's usually in the 140 range when it comes to their games. As a matter of fact, 1, 2, 3, they've not had a game of 150 or more since that New Mexico game at 158. And all of those games they played since has been 149.5 or less. And they played quite a bit of unders of late. I'm going to have a small lean here toward the under. I think Colorado State knows, their coaching staff must know, that getting in a track meet with New Mexico on the road is not a good idea and doesn't favor their chances of winning. So very slight lean for me on this game to go under the total of 157. So we'll see. All right, let's get to our next game. And Mr. Higgs, see if he can come up with another winner for us. An intriguing matchup from an entertainment standpoint anyway. Florida at Alabama, two teams that like to play at a lightning fast pace, Sean. And the total is indicative of that. Alabama right now is an 8.5-point favorite, and the total 174. Take it away, my friend.
Yeah, and you got two teams playing well. Both won, 8-10? And I think the shocking one would be Florida coming on and winning, 7 of 8 and 8-10 in SEC play after a sluggish start. But I got to look at the total here. I mean, 174.5. This is the Knicks versus Pistons in 1993 with John Starks, Pat Riley basketball here. Are you kidding me with this total? I had to go over just on principle. 175. We're talking somebody's got to drop a 90 spot here. I mean, this is crazy. As much as sometimes you see a 115, you're like, wow, here comes some crazy Ivy League or CAA Drexel. 174. I'm going over. I mean, listen, you can make a case for Alabama at home laying the 8.5-9 here. With their wins, 25, 22, 21 points, 18 points, 27 points. They maul people to death. They're going to want to set the pace and run. Florida could run a little bit. Look at their scores. I mean, they had no problem getting to the 80s. Now, it's not the free money play like the people betting on New Mexico from a 5 up to a 7 here and it keeps rolling. I have to just go over that kind of number. It's kind of like back in the day when you see a 51 in NFL, you'd be like, oh my goodness, a 50. You gotta bet the over. They're begging to go under, right? It used to be I remember seeing a 71 in some crazy whack game back in the day on a Thursday night ESPN game back in the 90s, like San Jose State 71. You're like, oh, under. No, of course you go over because it's going to be 45-40. Once I see this number, I got to go over. It's going to be like 105, 95, and they get there. Alabama puts 100 points up in games. It's ridiculous. I'll go over the total. I don't care if it's square. I know the public loves over, but this one I have to just based on what they open this up at.
Jesse, it's this high for a reason, buddy. And Sean likes Alabama and the Florida game to go over 174 is our official free pick. Again, you know what I'm going to say about this, Jess, but go ahead. You take it away and give us your opinion.
Great minds often think alike, and a lot of the time we all align on certain philosophies, but this is where we differ. And for me, just out of principle, I got to look to go under a number like this, 174. Sean mentioned, 80s, 90s. 80s, 90s ain't going to do it. I mean, both teams got to score 90 to get this one over. This number is so high, and it screams to me the product of people betting on the over like it's free money.
But it's come down, Jesse. It's come down from 174.5.
I looked at the last 10 meetings. The highest number we've seen in the previous 10 head-to-head meetings was 151.5. Yeah, I mean, this game should be a high-scoring game. There's no doubt about it. But it could very well be a high-scoring game and still not get to this number. To be truth be told, I wouldn't bet on this with Ross Benjamin's money. But if I was forced to make a bet, I'm going to go under 174. A lot easier than going over it.
Well, I'm not going to give you my money to make any bet, Jesse, by the way. So you can save that comment and switch it over to somebody else because nobody's going to ask me for money so they can make a bet on what they think. I'm going to be the only one who does that.
And as Jesse said, this is a free pick, folks. I did not bet this game. I'm just looking at it as a it's an exciting game, but I kind of lean Alabama. I thought about taking Alabama, and as Jesse alluded, 90 to 80 does not get us a total here. No. I mean, we need 95 to 80. I mean, it's a lot of points.
Just keep in mind, Alabama has scored 100-plus points in 8 of 25 games this year. That's outrageous for college basketball. That goes back to the Loyola Marymount days when they had Bo Kimball and Hank Gathers when they played at that torrid pace under Paul Westhead.
Did they have televisions back then, Russ?
Yeah.
Come on, Jess. You don't remember those days? That's like 19. I ran a pool that year, and I made Duke like a 12-1 favorite. Everybody was betting Duke. Thank goodness UNLV came in and took care of business. But I like Georgia Tech that year with Kenny Anderson and Dennis Scott. But that Loyola Marymount team, whoosh.
They got the elite. They got to the Elite Eight where they did lose the UNLV. Yeah. But anyway. Again, you're looking at Alabama, their point totals recently 100, 109, 81, 99, 85, 109. That's in their last 6 games. And then you look at Florida. I mean, this is a Florida team that's topped the 100 point barrier twice this year. And over their last, let's see here, during this current run that Sean alluded to, where they've gone 7-1 straight up in SEC play, they have scored 79 points or more in all 7 of those wins. So both of these teams like to play fast. I mean, look at, a field goal attempts in college basketball. If you're 60 or above, you're playing at a pretty fast pace. Well, Florida over their last 3 games, 67, 68, and 67 field goal attempts. And then they have a 56 against Texas A&M, but then they go to 78 field goal attempts against Kentucky, 71 against Georgia. They're playing at an outrageous pace. And the same goes for Alabama. Look at their field goal attempts, Sean. 71 against Texas A&M in their last game, 81 in the game before that. And they're shooting 47 and 52%. It's not like they're missing a ton of shots and retrieving offensive rebounds. And
if you want to look at Alabama free throw percentage for these guys, look at their top 6 guys, all over 80%. 86, 88, 85, 81, 100%, a perfect 27 to 27 for one gentleman, another 83%. So even when they get to the line, we are going to, at home, those 85%, that's more like a 90. That's like a 93% home. Everybody's going to be 10 of 11 from the line, extra points, baby.
Yeah.
Need them.
And the most important thing is points being scored with the clock stopped. You know what I mean? So, yeah, something to keep in mind there. So again, Sean is not going to use this on his premium card, but he has a strong opinion on this game, not to be scared of the big number and to go over 174. Jesse likes New Mexico -4 in the first half against Colorado State. So again, folks, that's -4 for the Lobos as a first half bet over Colorado State. All right. Speaking of high numbers, Kentucky and LSU go at it tonight in Baton Rouge. And Kentucky right now is a 6.5-point favorite. The total is 163, and that's come down from the opening number of 165. Similar to Sean, I'm not going to be scared away by this big number, and I know people are going to be betting the under in this game, and it's already apparent because it's come down 2 points. Because all of a sudden, Kentucky, whose major weakness throughout the course of the year has been their ability to stop people defensively. It's never been their ability to score because they're a dynamic offensive team. In the last 2 games against Auburn and Ole Miss, they've really locked down defensively, really impressive performance with Auburn. But, you know, I really looked for a reason to use LSU in this situation. And the reason being is you got a Kentucky team that beat a very good Ole Miss team. Okay. And also knock off number 14 Auburn on the road. And then up next is number 13 Alabama. So this is a potential flat spot for them. However, I couldn't do it because LSU is terrible defensively. What I do see as a drop-off is their defensive intensity in this game. I think we'll see a little more of the lack of defensive intensity for Kentucky as opposed to what we saw in the last 2 games, and more so what we saw prior to that, if that makes sense to you. So, again, I look for a drop-off in defensive intensity because they just played the number 14 team in the country on the road and won and really, really stymied them defensively. And then they have another offensive juggernaut up next in Alabama, which we just discussed. Kentucky, over the last 5 games, averaging over 86 points a game, shooting close to 50%. Terrific 3-point shooting team over their last 5, 42.6%. That's nothing new for Kentucky, though, folks. It's not like a hot streak all of a sudden. This is the number 2 team in the country when it comes to 3-point shooting percentage at 40.5%. And as Sean brought up and I brought up about the free throw shooting, over the last 5 games, Kentucky has made 78% of their free throws. Once again, folks, getting to the free throw line, scoring with the clock stopped. In terms of offensive tempo, this game sets up for a high-scoring affair. It's Kentucky number 17 in the nation when it comes to offensive tempo. That's offensive possessions per 40 minutes. And they're number 2 in the SEC, while LSU comes in at number 3 in the SEC. And the only team that's better than both of them in that category is Alabama. LSU, the last 5, not been too shabby offensively themselves, averaging just a shade under 80 points per game, shooting 49%, and also got red hot from beyond the 3-point line, shooting close to 41% over their last 5 games. You know, the bottom line with LSU is, yes, they've improved dramatically offensively over the last 5 contests, and they've shown the ability to score in big numbers over the course of the season, but defensively has been their issue, and nothing has changed much over the last 5 games where they've allowed 83.2 points per contest. This is an LSU team who has scored 89 points or more in 3 of their last 4 at home. They've seen a total of 160 or more 3 times this year, and all occurred over the course of the last 6 games. So recently, they've gone 2-1 to the over in those situations with an average combined score of 190 with no overtime games included in there. And the only under they had when it was 160 or more, they lost 82-80 at Florida and it barely went under the total of 163. Kentucky's gone under the total in the last 2. with those very good defensive performances, but they haven't gone under the total in 3 straight games all season long. 2-0 to the over this season, coming off back-to-back unders again with a combined average score of 179. This is a Wildcats team. Yes, they've gone under the last 2, but they're 18-5 to the over in their last 23 overall. And finally, LSU in SEC home games this year, they've gone 4-1 to the over with a combined score of 165.8. This is a high number, not as high as the 174, and I'm not going to let it scare me away. I'm going to go Kentucky LSU over 163, and I think I'll be going against public opinion in this one. Guys, Jesse, to you.
Yeah, Ross, very insightful, very convincing. You almost make me want to get my credit card out and place a bet on this game. But especially when you bring up the letdown spot for Kentucky, and you look at a letdown spot and you equate that to a lack of defensive intensity. Of course, you're not going to bring it as hard on defense if you're playing a team that you think you can beat. It's not as big a game as the game at Auburn. And, as you said, I was looking at this game. I was this close to making it a premium pick on LSU just because of the spot bet. But I've got something to ask both you guys. I know when I picked Creighton yesterday, Sean sort of sighed and said, "You want to step in front of UConn? I mean, you be my guest," kind of thing. And we've only got a week left in February. It's almost March, and I've noticed at this time of year, beware of stepping in front of the blue bloods. And Kentucky is a blue blood. These teams that are heading to the tournament facing teams that aren't. Maybe you don't want to step in front of them at this time of year. If you guys notice that, is that something you guys put any thought into?
Absolutely. And then the other point is, when you talk about Kentucky and facing Auburn, Kentucky went into that game knowing Auburn was a very good defensive team. And they were not going to be able to win a track meet against them, and they were going to have to bear down defensively. That's not the case here, okay? LSU is not a good defensive team whatsoever. I'm talking about the total. In terms of the Blue Bloods and going against the Blue Bloods, again, I agree with it to a point, but also this is one of those vulnerable spots for Kentucky. And the only reason I shied away, Jesse, is because LSU is a team that Kentucky could have an awful first half and then come out and outscore them by 30 in the second half because they play terrible defense. But Sean, your thoughts on what Jesse just alluded to and what I had to say about this game in general.
Yeah, so I was looking at LSU last night. It was a 5, and I wrote it down. I'm like, I'm going to take LSU today. It would have been a premium. I was ready to get my money out. And then by the time I get through all the games and all the lines that come back to it, then all of a sudden there was like a 7 out there. I'm like, oh my goodness. Auburn, a sandwich spot, Alabama, you want to automatically kind of play LSU. But then it's like the number gets away. As Jesse said, here come the Blue Bloods. And let's be honest, who's ever getting into the NCAA tournament, you're going to have a handful of title contenders. Whoever wins their tournaments, say you bet the Power 5 school, only 5 schools are going to be on winning streaks, right? I'm not talking about your Big South teams. I'm talking about your SECs, ACCs, Big Tens, whatever. But you're going to have a team like Kentucky or Alabama or Auburn, Tennessee, all capable of going on kind of a run, right? I mean, Kansas might get knocked off in their tournament. So I don't know. I agree with the fact that you want to kind of stay away from getting in front of teams playing well. And a team like Kentucky that always starts a little iffy because they're bringing in a bunch of new recruits, takes a little time to gel. This is where you want to jump on them, right? This is where you want to get on him. Or, Michigan State went down yesterday, but that was a team that started slow and had a great January and first couple weeks. So I agree with Jesse in that point where you kind of want to stay out of the way of teams kind of getting into their rhythm, especially a Kentucky or a Kansas or North Carolina, any kind of team like that. I totally agree with that kind of thinking. Like, it's either you're on it or just stay away. And there's other games on the board. You don't have to, bet it. Just
the other thing is, Sean and Jesse, and curious to hear your thoughts, is a team like Connecticut that was on such a tear, or as Sean alluded to, such a rhythm, a good rhythm. And they lose to Marquette, or I'm sorry, they lose to
Great.
yesterday. They lost to Creighton on the road. Okay. I look to play on them, look for a reason to play on them in the next game, because I do think they're gelling at the right time. I do think they're in a rhythm. I just thought they got caught in a bad spot. And Jesse brought it up yesterday. You're coming off a big win against Marquette. Now you're going to Creighton in a tough environment, a team that's chomping at the bit, that's very seldom a home underdog, and they're facing the number one team in the country, and it's on 2 days of rest. I mean, I just think that was a very, very tough spot for Connecticut, and watch out for them in the next game. I'm not saying I am going to 100% going to bet on them, but situations like that, Jesse, I look for teams to bounce back that have been red hot, and I think got caught up in a situation like Connecticut was in. And then the next game, you're going to see maybe a little bit of a drop off for support on Connecticut from a betting standpoint because of what just occurred. Your thoughts, Jesse?
Well, one of the things about Connecticut is they were, as Sean said, they just kept on winning. They hadn't really had a bad game. So, I know you guys don't like to bet on the due factor, they're due, but, you can see them having a letdown because they've been rolling for so long, and then they find themselves in this tough spot. It seemed likely that they were going to have a letdown, whereas Kentucky, on the other hand, they just had a horrible game against Gonzaga at home a couple weeks ago, or 3 games ago, and now they've won back-to-back games, and they're sort of you can sort of see them building up steam and not ready to have that letdown again.
Yeah, I mean, the do factor for me, Jesse, is what I alluded to, and it depends on how you define when you say a team is due to have a letdown. A team is, for me, due to have a letdown for the situations that I just described. And, I'm thinking that you're using the word due. I'm using the word situation, a bad situation. It's one and the same. You know what I mean? Now, to just shoot from the hip and say they've won 15 in a row, there's no way they're going to win 16 in a row or due to lose without factoring in anything else, like who they played last, who they got coming up next, is ridiculous. That those are the same people that look to catch an inside straight on the river card.
I guess perhaps what I was trying to say, Ross, is if they had have lost their previous game heading into the Marquette game, then they get back on track. They do beat Marquette by 28.
Yeah,
and perhaps now they've already had a bad game recently.
Right.
They're not ready to have another one. But the fact that they hadn't had a bad game in so long, and they find themselves in this tough spot, they can exhale. When you've been playing well for so long, you exhale a little bit, and then you have yourself a letdown. But
I mean,
often when you've recently had a letdown, it keeps you sharper. The fact that you recently had a letdown.
I mean, they were set up for a letdown too. I mean, that's how I look at it. They come off that where they annihilated Marquette, who was red hot at the time, and everybody was lauding them, and the media is, look, here they go again. They're going to win the national championship again, and they very well may be. But again, use the word due, use the word set up for a letdown, whatever the case may be. You have to look at those types of situations. I think we're on the same page, Jesse. We just word things differently in that regard. We're aligned. Sean, any thoughts on that before we wrap up?
Yeah, look at hindsight being 2020. As much as I had UConn yesterday, and it was a bad spot, I probably should have put more emphasis on them coming to a tough road game where they hadn't had one since probably a neutral North Carolina or whatever. They hadn't really had a tough. They beat Gonzaga and that was a neutral, but it was like a Gonzaga home game. So that hindsight being 2020. That was the right call yesterday. But yeah, I don't think anybody's due, but situational spots for sure. Although I will say, baseball time comes, I'll be on not as much as it's due, but when a team gets into winning 9, 10, 11, 12 in a row, 13 in a row, or losing that many, I will definitely look to take a underdog or whatever kind of plus money I'm getting the opposite side of those
They're
trades for sure.
overvalued. Yeah, because they're overvalued.
Because you're not winning 97
Yeah.
straight games of baseball.
Well, yeah, and it's a 162 game schedule, in
Yeah,
so it's a whole different dynamic.
I know. I was
So,
just trying to make a little.
yeah, you're just being a wise guy as normal.
Bring out a little funny side to you today. Come on, will ya?
Absolutely. We got to entertain too, right? So, anyway, I'm going to save Jesse's voice here, so you'll see a like button right underneath, and
I'll do it.
All right, go ahead.
Smash!
There we
The
go.
like button. How's
Smash that like button, folks, or you can just touch it or tap it. Same purpose. And that's just a small token of your appreciation for the time, work, and effort we put into bringing you a quality podcast on our channel. And our theme was always, and it continues to be, and will be going forward. We want to make you a smarter sports bettor today than you were yesterday. So hit that like button, and we would appreciate that, folks. Don't forget to subscribe. I will be back tomorrow with Doug Upstone. We'll be talking some NBA at that time because the NBA resumes tomorrow. Sean and Jesse will be back with me at Friday, 1 o'clock for our live show, folks. And got a very good response in our last live show. Let's do it again. March is approaching. We have a lot to talk about. You have a lot of questions, comments, and what have you. It's your chance to chime in, ask, comment, and we'll reply to as many of you as we possibly can, time permitting. Until the next time, for Sean Higgs, Jesse Schule, and Ross Benjamin, take care and God bless, folks.